Hi, and welcome along to AFTV News Daily, the early edition. Glad that you're able to join us today. Hope you're having a good day under the circumstances. We've been told today the lockdown could continue for another 3 weeks. Well, they're set to announce it today. And oh my God, man, it's driving me nuts now. It is driving me nuts. But I have good company to keep me going throughout the day, and it is Mark Goldbridge.
Hi, Ed, Robbie. How you doing? Hope everyone's doing well.
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. How's things?
Yeah, not too bad. You wake up every morning to different news, don't you? I'm hearing that there's a 30th of June deadline now for football, but
yeah. You know, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a sec, actually. Also wanted to sort of because I was on your channel yesterday and we was having a very interesting conversation about you know, our two clubs and how we used to run things, as we would say, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to sort of continue that on as well, because that was really, really interesting. But first of all, we've got this big event that we've got happening starting on Saturday, where we're going to be raising money for the NHS. If you can tell everybody about it.
Yeah, so effectively, we're going to be doing 24 hours for the football fans for the NHS, which will be 24 hours kicking in from midday on Saturday. It will start on Robbie's channel on AFTV for 3 hours. Then it'll come to United Stand from 3 till 6. Then every 3 hours we'll swap. 9 o'clock on Saturday night on the United Stand, we've got AFTV versus United Stand quiz, which you can all get your pen and papers ready for. That we're looking forward to that. But ultimately, we're doing this to raise money for our NHS. We're all playing a part. Look, stay home, stay safe. You do play a part, and I know people are struggling with that. But these people are putting their lives at risk and they're saving lives. And without them, I think that this period of lockdown has really opened people's eyes to the look. And footballers are aware of it. Bankers are aware of it. We're all aware of it. That actually, when society breaks down because of something like this that we can't do anything about, it's these people that save lives, and this is why we're going to do it on Saturday. So we want you all to get involved, all football fans, because I know not everyone who watches AFTV are Arsenal fans. I've seen the AFTV and chill. So everybody, and that's why I think Robbie and me are going to get people from other fan channels as well, and celebrities and everything on to be a big part of it.
Yeah, lots and lots of guests coming on throughout the day, right? So that's going to be really, really good. So make sure you check that out right throughout the day. And as Mark says, it kicks off at 12 on Saturday on AFTV. It finishes off on United Stand, going right up till 12 the next day. And as he said, we're going to be swapping over throughout the day. But I'm really, really looking forward to it. How's your stamina? You ready for it?
I am. I mean, look, I'm trying to get Flex to do that 3 o'clock shift in the morning because we've got 3 till 6. I mean, I'll do it if I have to, and I'll definitely pop on with him. But I'm thinking, that's a perfect. He's a DJ and he's used to these bloody DJ sets at 4 a.m. So I think a Flex and Rant show at 3 a.m. And I'll just sell it to them that it can be uncensored because it's so late at night. So if you're in Australia or America, you might get a bit of blue language for your breakfast. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good.
Yeah, I got the 12 till 3 in the morning slot. I've also got that 6 till 9 in the morning. Actually, you lot have got away lightly when I think about it. We got the worst. 12 till 3 in the morning and then 6 till 9. So I don't know.
Looking forward to that 9 to the last 3 hours, 9 till 12. I'm thinking Sunday papers, cup of coffee, croissant. We'll take it. We'll even do the Arsenal news. You know, it'll be good.
Oh, you make me laugh, man. You make me laugh. But yeah, you know what? You touched on it a minute ago. This report that tomorrow the Premier League are going to be having a big meeting and they're discussing when the season restarts, if the season restarts. And there's this talk about trying to restart it in June. Possible?
It's funny because I actually woke up this morning and I'm sure like you're in various WhatsApp groups. Some of them are for like my kids who play football, some mine, some to do with work. And I did, and I don't know whether I'm meant to say it or not, but I did get told by somebody this morning in a WhatsApp group that because I live in the Midlands, one of the Midlands clubs, they've been told to expect to go back training around the middle of May to play your first game at the start of June. And that's a pretty big professional club. So I think that if you start playing football at the start of June, you give yourself 3.5 weeks to the end of June, 9 games to go if you're just doing Premier League games. But then I think, well, what about the FA Cup? That knocks it past straight away. So I don't know. We've said it so many times. I think, Donald Trump's talking about May the 1st. I mean, he spoke about Easter, though, didn't he? And he was wrong on that. So
don't listen to him.
No, I do think we'll have some sense of normality by back middle of May. I'm not saying schools and stuff, but I think, we won't be in the same lockdown in the middle of May. But, how you get football back is going to be interesting. But there's so much money involved, it wouldn't surprise me. And,
the talk is that it would start off behind closed doors, or the season would be completed behind closed doors. It does seem a bit inconceivable at the moment that, 74,000 will turn up at Old Trafford, 60,000 at the Emirates. It doesn't, I can't see that at the moment. So it'll probably be behind closed doors if it does get back on. I mean, it looks like they're trying to push through this June thing because obviously there's a lot of players, their contracts are up.
Yeah.
At the end of June. And even though FIFA are saying, well, it's all right, we'll extend contracts and stuff like that. But what if a player says, no, I don't want to do that? And, there could be all kind of legal issues around it. So they're trying to push that, but whether they'll be able to push that or not, I mean, I can't see it starting back by June, personally. I don't know what you think.
Well, I think there's so many people talking about it, some credible, some the Daily Mirror, whatever, but effectively, that's what the point is. And I think goodwill goes a long way. I mean, we spoke about yesterday on our channel the player pay cuts, and there's a lot of players that want to do stuff. But what if you're an Arsenal player or a United player whose contract's up at the end of June? You're not a first team player. You're probably not even on the bench. What's your incentive to say, oh yeah, I'll wait around for another month? So it's never as simple as FIFA are going to say, let's get everyone to knock their contract back. There's always going to be different circumstances. And also, as we know, this is why the Bosman thing came in all the years ago. It's about freedom of movement. It's about giving players and workers. So I think there will be a problem with June the 30th. And I think what you might have is a situation where some clubs just have to let those players go and carry on. But I don't think we'll get the Premier League done by the end of June. They're talking about, well, if we can't do that, let's just award Liverpool the title. I read that today and I'm like, no, the race isn't run. You can't give Liverpool the title. So I'm not for that. The worst scenario for me is the best scenario is we complete the season and hopefully United get Champions League. The worst scenario is not voiding it. It's voiding it and handing out titles. I think that would be a farce.
Okay. Of course, lots of transfer news. There's one for you. This one looks like it's Zane. He says, Mark, why do you rate Grealish? He plays for a pub team and he's English and overrated. He's not good enough for Arsenal. Cheaper non-English players to get. I don't know. Just before you answer that, Mark, I rate Grealish. I'd have him at Arsenal. I don't agree with that.
Zane, I know Zane. He appears on our streams a lot, and he's a good lad, but he's very loyal to Arsenal. I'm surprised he doesn't like Jack Grealish because he's very open about the fact that he voted for Brexit and the Tories, which I think politics and football is always a dangerous thing. But look, in relation to Grealish, whether he comes to United or he goes to Arsenal, which is highly unlikely he'll go to Arsenal, I think. But I think, look, if you're comparing Grealish to Maddison, you've got one player who's got worse stats, but he's third in the league. You've got another player who's got better stats. He's a better leader, and he's playing in a team he got promoted in the Championship, which is a tough league. He's playing in a side that's been flirting with relegation. I think Grealish has proven, all right, off the pitch, bit of a prat, what he's done recently, but on the pitch, I think he's proven himself to be a player that has the right ingredients. Whether he'd succeed or not, you never know. But I think he's got the right ingredients to get a bigger move.
I like him. This one for me says, what are your thoughts on Dangotti's takeover? And what are your thoughts on the activation of Thomas Partey's release clause? Well, both of them's a bit of dreams at the moment. That's what my thoughts are at the moment. I mean, Mark, we were touching on this yesterday, right? And he talks about Dangotti there, that gentleman. And the thing is, Newcastle on the verge of being taken over by Saudi wealth funds, right? The lady who's lining up that deal is the same lady who lined up the Man City deal, by the way, right? So these are going to be serious players. We already know that Newcastle got an outstanding support, nearly 50,000 every week, even when they're doing crap. I mean, when was the last time they won anything or did anything? And they've still got such a loyal fan base. It's one city, one club. them with a load of money behind them, you know. I mean, Saudi Arabian money is the biggest money you can get, right? They're going to be a serious threat. Clubs like us, we're, you know, Man United, Arsenal, all the traditional clubs now, we're in serious trouble, especially with this this whole coronavirus thing. I mean, can we ever see those days to return back to when we used to dominate?
I mean, I think the interesting thing with Newcastle is we're not living in the days that we remember with Blackburn Rovers, where, you know, or even Chelsea to a certain extent, where there's one club with a lot of money, or even Man City. I think that Man City is still going to be about, Liverpool is still going to be about, Chelsea is still going to be about, but Newcastle, no doubt, will become a force. Whether you can get players to go to Newcastle, that's always been an interesting thing to me. But there will be a threat. In relation to Arsenal and United, I don't know the details of Arsenal, but from what you were saying yesterday, I'd be more concerned about Arsenal because money is the thing that you need in this game. And we have owners that are a little bit tight, but we do have money and we have spent money. And I think that United have seen in January that if you start to fail, you will get nasty chants. You will get people turning up outside your house. And I think what United have done over the last couple of months since Bruno's come in, they've appointed this Neil Ashton, and there's a lot of PR things going on that fans are now going, my club, hashtag. Even last night, Manchester United sign on Old Trafford, they darkened out all the letters to say NHS United. And, you know, we tweeted it off our Instagram. We were like, this is great. And everyone's like, oh, that's my club. You can turn a fan base very, very quickly. And I just think what United have done is, and I don't like the Glazers ownership, but what they have done is they've realised finally that stop going head-to-head with United fans, pissing them off, and start doing the things that United fans want. And I think Arsenal could do that, but it depends how much money you've got. I think Arsenal and United owners are quite similar, that there's an arrogance of we're going to do what we want. We're not going to engage with the fans properly. We'll pay them lip service. United seem to have, over the last few months, and it's early days, changed that. And there has been a change in attitude towards the club, which is can only be a good thing.
But you know the interesting thing about it, right? I was on last night. I was on Talk Sport. Jason Cundy made a very good point, right? He said a lot of these transfer deals that are being spoken about at the moment, he goes, I think they're all pre-coronavirus. He goes, these are pre-coronavirus deals people are talking about when they're mentioning 70 million, 100 million, 60 million, even 50 million. He goes, who's going to have, he goes, I don't care how big the club is. They ain't going to have it. They're not going to have it when this finishes, when this is all over. Every single club, even Manchester United, who we know generates the most income of any club in the world, I think that's the fact, right? But you haven't been able to sell any shirts. You haven't been able to sell any merchandise. There's been no football. There's been no income. It's the same for Manchester. All right, they might have a bigger reserves, but United have a lot of debt that we all know about as well. Arsenal are in the same boat. Arsenal haven't been able to, one of their strong points is merchandise and stuff like that. They haven't been able to do any of that. There's been no football on the pitch. There's, we heard yesterday that, there's people taking, staff that are waiving, the directors and the execs are waiving a third of their salary for a year. They wouldn't be doing that if they're not going to be looking for everybody else to be taking cuts. They're talking about the possibility of giving back season ticket money if it's not played, if the games are not played normally, and if they're played behind closed doors. That'll be the same for Manchester United. That'll be the same. I just don't think, the big money is going to be around for clubs, even the traditional clubs that normally spend a lot. So it's going to be really weird times.
I think it's going to be a case of the strongest will survive and the poorest will, unfortunately, it's going to be a reflection of society throughout my life, where rich people get richer and the hard workers just keep scrapping around. And I think where Arsenal fit into that's going to be interesting. I hope from a United point of view, we're not laying off staff. We're not looking to furlough. We're still got our manager only a week ago coming out saying that our targets before this will be our targets during this. So I hope that United are still going to do business, and I hope that we're going to be one of the ones in a strong position. And I think Man City's, Newcastle, if they get taken over, Chelsea, they're going to still have funds. from Arsenal's point of view, I think that I said it when you've got Arteta, and I think Jason Cundy's right. I think you're right. I think the transfer fees people are talking about will be pre this, because we've not come out of this, so we don't know. Till you sit down with Dortmund and talk about Sancho, or Atletico Madrid and talk about Partey, you don't know what the situation's going to be, but they're going to have to get realistic. But in Arsenal's situation, looking at it, you know, and we said it at the start, I would love to see a rivalry of Arsenal and United because it was the best one. I do fear that Arsenal are a long way away from it. And I'm not talking about United here because we might be as well. But I think Arteta might be the right man. But he's coming in to a team that needs to offload players and bring players in. Well, how much harder is his job now than it was 3 months ago? Because how do you offload players in this market? And how do you bring in players in this market when you're already talking about trying to get players to take wage cuts? It's going to be challenging for a lot of clubs. Very challenging.
Southwest says Arsenal can be a big club if they get a commerce-driven CEO like Ed. Well, I think they have got, and they have always had that. Even when they had Gazidis there, the commerce-wise and that, they were pretty decent at. It's just that we never ever see any of that money. That's the problem with it. But you know, certainly, you know, it's going to be a really crazy time approaching. And we were talking about it yesterday. You know, the times when our two teams used to be, I mean, when we used to play each other, it's not a local derby, but there was no rivalry bigger in football when Arsenal played Manchester United. And it just seems like a long time ago now.
I think there's an evolution of football as well. I mean, I'm old enough to think, the way I've always looked at it is that Pep versus Klopp, Liverpool versus Man City, it's just a Poundland version of what we had in the late 90s, which was the best Premier League thing. Wenger came in with his, you're not going to drink, I play a certain brand of football way, and he was the first to do it. And Sir Alex Ferguson came in and built a team built on passion, good football, a mix of British and foreign players. And I think Liverpool are close to United, and I think Man City are close to what Arsenal were. And Pep's close to Wenger, and Klopp's close. There's massive similarity that you've got to be of a certain age, but it's nowhere near got the rivalry. Even though they're closer, Liverpool and Man City, they just, you know, Arsenal and United was the best rivalry of the Premier League. It always makes me feel a bit goosebumps, really, because it was great. And we were saying yesterday, I would love it if the fan channels actually existed in that time, because it would have been immense. But I'd love it to get back to that. I do think that one thing about history in football is that even if United and Liverpool, obviously that would be big, Arsenal and Spurs would be big. These rivalries don't die, they just simmer. So if Arsenal and United did end up back as the two biggest clubs, you'd revisit the 90s again. You'd have that same thing. That rivalry's still there. We're just miles away from it being something that we all want.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I used to love the rivalry. You know, I still see even some of your people jumping in the comments and mentioning 8-2. You'll have Arsenal fans mentioning how we won the league at Old Trafford. I mean, they were just great days. And every time that game used to happen, the world stopped. Well, the world of football stopped. It doesn't matter what country you're in. Everybody wanted to watch that game. It was just a huge game. I mean, this guy here saying that Liverpool and Manchester United is the biggest rivalry. Sit down. I'm sorry. I think that when in you know, like we said in those end of the 90s, early 2000s, the biggest rivalry in football was Arsenal versus Manchester United, without a doubt. Liverpool never came into it, in my opinion.
I think in the Premier League history, the biggest rivalry is Arsenal United, and that's proven on the facts. Yeah. I mean, look, 99 for me, and I'm on an Arsenal channel here. That's the best team the Premier League's ever had. But look, Arsenal were a penalty away from knocking us out of the FA Cup. I mean, they should have knocked us out. And also, think about Premier Leagues. We won the league and we deserved to win the league. But the last day of the season, Arsenal still could have won that league. So we won a treble. Arsenal, last day of the season, could have won the league. They could have knocked us out of the FA Cup. So that just shows you what a rivalry it was. Liverpool are our biggest rival.
Hold on. Let me just stop you a minute. What did you say? The best 99 was the best team of the Premier League.
I'm not. I don't care if I'm on AFTV or sat on Ian Wright's sofa. I'm not having this.
The invincible team was the best team of the Premier League. The team that won, you know, went a whole season unbeaten. Something that's never been done again. You won the treble, yeah. You won other outside cups, but you weren't the best ever Premier League. We're talking Premier League now. The best ever Premier League team was that Arsenal invincible team.
I don't think it was even your best Arsenal team.
That's the best team of the Premier League era. That's the only team to go a whole season unbeaten.
You drew 12 games.
It don't matter. Well, why didn't you draw 12 games and go unbeaten for a season?
Because we don't want to park the bus just to keep the record. I remember that.
Everyone's desperate for that record. Look at Liverpool this season. They were desperate. They were trying their hardest. Obviously, they've been playing brilliant football. They're going to win the league. But they were trying their hardest to try and get that invincible record. And Watford beat them. It's not. It's so hard to do. And we did it, right? You are not the best. I'm sorry. You won the treble. That was fun. That was a great feat. So probably we can set an outside record for that and say the best team. I don't know how we describe that.
Best team ever.
Best team around at that time won the treble. But the best ever Premier League team is Arsenal, right? Because we went a whole season in the Premier League without losing one game.
No, not for me.
Give me the reasons why then.
Manchester United went into a season and won the 3 biggest trophies there is across a whole season. They didn't just... what did you do in the Champions League that year? What did you do in the FA Cup?
We should have done better in the Champions League. It was annoying. But listen, we talking about the Premier League now. That's what you started off, and you said in your when you was talking best team in the Premier League ever.
I think the Invincibles is easy to do.
That's why I stopped you and said, no, mate. No.
I think the Invincibles is easy to do. I think if Pep said next year... If Pep said next year, I'm playing the kids in the Champions League and the Carabao Cup and every Premier League game, that's our focus, I reckon he could go unbeaten easy. Rubbish.
Look at Liverpool this season. They're slapping up everybody. Soon as that pressure started to get to them, couldn't do it. Zane says, Mark, once we got Partey, Lamar and Koulibaly, we will finish third in the league.
He's playing bloody FIFA again, he is. He's got his FIFA coins.
He's doing a lot of dreaming. I mean, I want to ask people as well, which team was the best of the Premier League era, right?
It is sad. I do think it's sad.
If they get the comments, we done that one already. I don't know how that one popped up.
It is sad though, Robbie, and on your seriousness, that we do this like with Liverpool this year. We did it as well. We celebrated when when Atletico Madrid knocked them out because we're like, they can't do the treble. And I'm sure it was the same with you lot. And that's just a big reminder of how we're all living in the past, because we are every season when someone can't do the Invincibles, we're like, yeah, that's another year they can't do it. And in a way that our clubs and our owners get away with it for that, because we're like, oh, look at what we did before you were here. We need to start. I always said if Liverpool win the league, the Man United manager should be sacked. I mean, realistically, who was going to stop them this year? But it's more about when our big rival is winning a league, what are we doing about it? And unfortunately, we're hoping other people stop them doing it.
When I think about it, this guy here, Nurmel, when I think about it, you guys are actually the third best team in the Premier League era of all time. I say we're number one, Invincibles, right? Number two, Man City, the Centurions. He said that it's the best. They smashed all record. They got 100 points, obviously. Didn't go unbeaten. Number three, you lot.
No, but you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot there, because, as I just said, that 99 team, what the greatest thing about that is that I can't think of a season where anybody's been pushed as hard as that. That Arsenal side in 99 was very good. Who was your main rival when you were in the Invincibles? I can't remember who came second. Was it even close?
Hold on. When they got the 100 points, City, they pushed all the. Remember, was it Liverpool only lost one game, didn't they?
Yeah, they did do well.
Anybody's ever been pushed as hard as that,
But you've got to take into account the quality of the Premier League as well. I mean, a lot of people always presume it's better now. I think this season's Premier League's crap. I mean, you've been rubbish. We've been rubbish. Liverpool could have been invincible and they could have won a treble, but I still would have said the quality of this Premier League's crap. And we've been rubbish. Spurs have been rubbish. Chelsea have been. I mean, Chelsea have lost 10 games and they're comfortably in fourth.
They lost more games than us.
Yeah. So you've got to look at the quality of the Premier League. I mean, look, football's better than it was in 99. I don't have any doubts about that. But is it more competitive? I'm not so sure.
We're getting a real spread here. Nathan here is saying 99. But then this guy's saying Arsenal Invincibles was and still is the real deal in the Premier League history. Let everyone accept that.
United fans are always going to say the two best teams in Premier League history are 08 and 99. You're going to say Invincibles. It's, I like that. I think the 98 Arsenal team is very good, by the way. 0 defeats, best Premier League team. I always thought 98 was better.
This guy here is saying Chelsea 2004-5. What did they only lost one game, didn't they?
They were good. They'd be in the top 5. They are a contender. I think
that was boring. Boring.
That was a crap league as well.
Huh?
That was a crap league as well. We were rubbish. I don't know what happened to you after your Invincibles. I think you gave up, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, we were rubbish every year since the Invincibles. What's this guy? Man United 1968. I don't remember.
It's not the Premier League then. It definitely wasn't the Premier League then.
But you as you said, the annoying thing about it, right, is that we're both, even though we're trying to make strides to get back there. I mean, you guys are nearer than we are, but we're both far off. That when you look now, that a few years ago, I remember every Manchester United fan bantering us about getting in the top 4. Now we're both struggling to get in the top 4. That is how, and that's what I'm saying. When you then start to look at clubs like Newcastle emerging, they got a load of money. Everton have got, our ex, owners really, but guys who were part of our club, they've got them. Wolves have coming on strong. Leicester. It's getting harder and harder, isn't it?
Yeah,
like you said, it has been. I agree with you on that as well. It has been a bit of a crap league this year because nobody's tested Liverpool, have they?
I'm glad Leicester have done what they've done, and I hope Leicester get over the line, because I think when you're a smaller club like Leicester, and I know they won the league, but they've been in the top 3 pretty much all season. For them to drop out because they haven't got the staying power or squad that everyone else has got, I think would be wrong. But imagine if Leicester had a normal season and finished 8th. So 3rd and 4th would be probably United and Chelsea. We've had bad seasons, and yet you can still get into the top 4. I think that some competition's good, and I think complacency is a problem at Arsenal and United, and maybe it's slipping in at some of the other big clubs. It always was a bit boring that you knew that the top 6 was going to be the same every season. So why shouldn't Newcastle have money? Man City never had any right to have money. They're not a big club really. Man City, their biggest game was us. And they were good games, but they weren't a big club. Now they're one of the biggest clubs in the world. So Newcastle, why shouldn't they?
Does it annoy you that how they've kind of taken over from you guys? Because I mean, listen, if it was me, and I mean, last year I was a nervous wreck at around this time of year, because I started to think to myself, if Tottenham win the Champions League, something we haven't done, what am I going to do? You know what I mean? I was getting grief. I was getting on a tube. And Tottenham fans were coming up to me and they'd go, mate, I'll tell you, it's over. If we win this, I was getting it everywhere. I was like, and I was a nervous wreck. On the day of the game, I was a nervous wreck. I was like, please, Liverpool, man, do us a favour. These guys, if they win it, they've got the bragging rights, right? And luckily they didn't win it. But for you, you've got your noisy neighbours there in City. And
I'm obviously not from Manchester, so Liverpool have always been the bigger club for me, bigger rivalry, because of that. I think if you live in Manchester, you've got that immediate, surrounded by City fans if you can find one. But I think with Arsenal, I think it would be Spurs have got a bit of a history, whereas Man City, they haven't really got a history. So it would be more like maybe West Ham have got a bit of history. So a London club that's close to you that don't, maybe a Charlton Athletic getting a load of money. You wouldn't like it, but it's like
you can't Charlton stop. Come on.
but Man City, unless you live in the city of Manchester, they're not a big club, and they basically won the lottery. I mean, if anybody doesn't know, Man City's owners were looking at Everton and Aston Villa, and the only reason they bought Man City is because they got the Commonwealth Stadium. So they're not Man City fans. They saw a project. And if you ever go around there, which I'm sure a lot of you have, it's amazing what they've done, the infrastructure. They've built an amazing club. But it is soulless. I mean, look, the media still want to talk about United and Arsenal and Liverpool because we've got big fan bases, we've got big clubs. But Man City, you just can't buy that. So I just find Man City is annoying, but it's like a little pimple, really.
I think the thing that though you have to look on, right? Whether it be Man City, whether it be Tottenham, whether it be any of these sort of emerging clubs, right? I look at City and I think to myself, you can see a team there that's got a definite long-term plan. So it's a bit like when Chelsea first got the money. Chelsea then, very similar to City, hadn't done anything for years. You know, they were on at one point, they was on the, you know, brink of bankruptcy. We used to go to Chelsea every year. That was 3 points. 3 points bridge, you know. The money comes in and it transforms them. But the guy, in all fairness, the owner, he's stuck with them. He's been there consistently year in, year out, giving them the money and giving them the resources. And now, you know, you have to say they are a big club, right? Even though Arsenal probably still got more fans around the world and that, they're a big club. And the more they win things, you know what it's like, especially with the worldwide fan base, they want to back a winning team. You don't want to be, you know, based over in another country and your team's losing every week. You know, you want to, you know, and people start to follow. You know, there's a lot of Man United fans who are not from Manchester. And Arsenal fans who are not from London and that. You started following our teams because they were so good. You know, and they were excited by them, right? And that's what teams like City, Chelsea are building. So if we don't get our acts together in the next 10 years and they're still doing what they're doing at the moment, we could be afterthoughts and they could emerge as those big clubs even worldwide, because those young people that are supporting them now and are jumping on the bandwagon now are going to be older. And, you know, so, you know, it's very important that, you know, I'll talk strictly from an Arsenal point of view. It's why it really annoys me and very important that we get our act together.
I think Arsenal and United will always be okay because I think our kits look nice. I mean, I think even if you want to go and support City, everyone looks at Pratt in a sky blue top, so they need to change their kit.
There you go. There's a Charlton fan. He says Charlton are the best in the world. Do not diss Charlton. What are you dissing Charlton for?
Next Saudi Arabian billionaire, if you're watching, go and buy Charlton. Go on.
I remember Charlton. They had some. I think the guy who bought them, he's from Belgium, was a billionaire. He nearly ruined the club. That's the other thing, you know. I mean, you can have the wrong type of billionaire. I think that could be us actually, because we've got a massive billionaire, but we never see any of those billions. Here's a question for you, Mark, from Romario. He says, Mark, would you take Pochettino over Oli next season?
I think you've got to complete the season first. I'd be a liar to say to make a decision now would be. I said back in January when I wanted Oli to go after Burnley. I was like, I just can't see this guy turning it around. Then we got Bruno Fernandes, and I thought, you know what, that's a really good signing. Let's see what happens. Give it till the end of the season. So I'd say if we haven't got Champions League football from this position, I probably would look for Oli to go. I don't think the club will do now. I think there's too much goodwill now around him, but. Pochettino, I'm not convinced about Pochettino, to be honest, very quickly. I think that he's a player he's a manager that doesn't really play with width, and I've always seen United play with width. So I think Pochettino could be a mistake. But
who would you want if Oli doesn't make it?
I always said if Solskjaer doesn't work, we've tried the Mourinho, the Van Gaal, we've tried the Premier League manager in Moyes, we've tried the legend in so we've tried everything. So I think all bets are off. I would probably go for somebody. I would like to go for our own Pochettino or our own Arteta or our own Klopp. I would like to see United, instead of getting somebody else's manager that's done well, like a Poch, I'd like to go for like a Nagelsmann or a Southampton manager. An up-and-coming manager who's clearly very good. But I don't think United would be brave enough to do that.
That's interesting, the Southampton manager. I mean, I'm like, you know what? I'm like you. I look on it now and I say, you know, at first I wasn't a big fan of the Arteta thing. When I first said, I was like, because I just felt that, you know, Arsenal needed a big name. But then when they brought him in and when I actually sat down and thought about it properly, I'm like, actually, you know what? This is what Arsenal needs. We need a new, hungry, young manager that's going to come in, get the best out of the players that we've got, and start rebuilding. We need to rebuild. You can't just. I looked across at what you guys have been doing over the past since Fergie left, and I'm like, if we start doing the same thing, we're going to be in even worse a mess. We need to just build again, start with somebody young, fresh, somebody who understands the club. And I looked at him, I'm like, Arteta, he played for Arsenal. He was the captain of Arsenal. When he was at Arsenal as the captain, I remember speaking to some people at the club who told me Robbie's a natural leader. I remember at the time I said, why Arteta captain? Because he always seemed so quiet. You know, he didn't really talk a lot. And they said, oh, Robbie, believe you me, this guy in the dressing room, outside the club, proper. He's a leader. You can see it already. He's a natural leader. Worked under Pep Guardiola. I was like, after a while, I was like, actually, I bought it. I bought into it fully, and that's why I understand when you say about people like Nagelsmann, and because you want these younger. Even the Mourinho thing going to Tottenham. At first, I was thinking, you know what, Tottenham have pulled off a coup, but now I'm starting to look at it and say, well, they've just got the same old. Mm. They've just when you really think about it, no thought's gone into it. It's just like, oh, Mourinho wins trophies. If we get him in, he might win a trophy. He might ruin the club after a while, but we'll win it. We'll get a trophy out of it.
I was stunned by Spurs doing that. I was stunned Spurs did that, because we should have seen in the last few months at Chelsea the warning signs, and then we still took him because Mourinho wins a trophy. And I know he did win a Europa League and a Carabao Cup, but if Spurs have been really stupid there. I mean, he does not fit what Spurs football want to play, and I think that's going to end badly. I think he'll lose players, he'll lose fans, and it will set Spurs back.
Avinas says fan bases are built around the culture of the club, not trophies. That is why teams like United, Arsenal, and Liverpool will always be considered big clubs. He's got a great point there, but also people do start to follow clubs. When you sort of trace it back, when you go around the world and you speak to a lot of fans, there'll be always little moments. When you say, why do you support Arsenal? Why do you support Man United? There's always a moment. There's always been some moments that has made them become a supporter of that club. And a lot of times it's to do with some big moments, a big victory, a big win, a big trophy, So, I mean, that's why we got to be fearful that these teams, they're going to, if we don't get our acts together, I'd love to see the return back to those days where it was Arsenal, Manchester United. That rivalry for me, there's been nothing like it. Nothing.
I think clubs, honestly, I think football clubs miss the, I know it's a bit self-gratifying, but, I think a lot of fans probably start supporting Arsenal or United because of the work fan channels do as well. That's part of it as well. In the modern phenomenon, you start to engage. I get a lot of people who watch United Stand who aren't United fans, but apparently they hate United, but they love the conversation. They love all the fan stuff. It's the banter,
and football fans. You have your club, but you do look at what other clubs are doing. I mean, we're all in the Premier League, so everything that happens in the Premier League is of interest to every football fan. Zane says Mourinho wins trophies at big teams. Spurs are a pub team and irrelevant. What about all right? What about this one? Michael Carrick for the next United manager, a quiet, improving type, a bit like Arteta.
This is why I didn't want Ollie to get sacked in January, because United would have sacked him, put Carrick in charge till May. We'd have won for 3 months. Everyone would have been singing Carrick's at the wheel round Flex, and then we would have given him a 3-year contract. I'm terrified of another interim manager. Look, Michael Carrick could be the next Pep. I don't know, but I don't want to do that again. You can't do that again. United, if they got rid of Ollie, would have to go a different path.
This guy says, Robbie, would you take selling Aubameyang and Lacazette for Partey, Upamecano and Jovic? This gives us a front three of Pepe, Jovic and Martinelli. Sorry, I'm not rating Jovic at the moment. He's went from Eintracht Frankfurt, where he had a great season, has gone to Real Madrid and has totally flopped. So it's yet, to me, the jury's still out on Jovic. Upamecano, Partey would be good signings, but I don't want to lose Aubameyang or Lacazette. I keep saying it. I want to be building, not, it's a bit at Arsenal sometimes. It's a bit like, I don't know, you buy something nice, but then you have to swap it to bring in something else. You know what I mean? So we're never building. We're never building anything. So no, I wouldn't want to see that. James says, I'm not sure Arsenal can ever compete at the top again consistently, but Manchester United are so big with vast revenues, they should always be up there. Would you agree with that?
Well, we've not been there for 6 years. So I would have agreed with that, 2012, but we haven't been up there for 6 years. We've been fighting for 4th and 5th. That's the truth. It's not good enough. So I'd like to think that was true, but the last 6 years show it's not.
Arsenal and United's rivalry is how rivalries should be. Passion on the pitch and banter off it. And remember those games. Remember you used to have Keane and Vieira. I mean, it weren't even just... It was so many different rivalries, wasn't it? Because, all right, I know with Liverpool and City, you've got Klopp and Pep. There's a bit of... But they're not really... You wouldn't say those two dislike each other. At the time, I mean, it ended up, and it was great to see when both managers retired, that they sort of become kind of good friends in Wenger.
Which is how it should be, yeah.
Yeah, in Wenger and Fergie. But there is no way when the rivalry, when they were playing, those two did not like each other at all. And then you literally had the same rivalry on the pitch with Roy Keane and Vieira. They didn't like each other. They've become friends since, but they didn't like each other. The rivalry was, I mean, remember Keown up in the face of, Van Nistelrooy? You don't see those things no more.
No. And I think that, when we used to play you, I always remember one of our lads saying that, if Reyes was playing on the wing, rest in peace, you go and clatter him in the first couple of minutes because he might not fancy it. But if you didn't, he'd tear you apart. And that's what United used to do against Arsenal. We were a good side, but there was always this thing. And I remember Arsenal going up north when they were a good team and they'd go and lose to Bolton. Whenever they went up north, no matter how good they were, you'd think they might drop points. But whenever we played them, it would always... Phil Neville would come in or Darren Fletcher would come in just to clatter a few people. And and that's what it was. It wasn't just... If we went toe-to-toe with Arsenal, we would lose sometimes. We were a good team, but we had to do that. We had to be physical as well, which made it... and I think Wenger adapted to that. I think the first few years he was like, I can't deal with this. And then he started to bring some grit in as well. And yeah, they were great games and you never knew which way it was going to go. I mean, that battle in the tunnel with Keane, that's one of my favourite United games, that is. Because it shows the passion. It's like, because Vieira was picking on Gary Neville. So Roy Keane says, come and pick on me. And, it's brilliant. You don't get that now. Yeah.
Why did you call and pick on me?
Yeah.
And Vieira did.
Yeah. It was great. Brilliant.
Jason says, how times have changed from Keane and Vieira to Xhaka and Young.
We ain't got Young anymore. We've got rid of him, thank God.
God now, isn't it? So, but I see what you guys I see what the guys talking about there, And Bob Gunnar says, United versus Arsenal was always the golden years of football rivalry. Nothing's come, nothing's come. It's clicked up a few times. Who's the worst player from each team? United and Arsenal at the moment. Worst player.
Are we doing our own club, or do you want me to do what I think is Arsenal's worst player and what you think's ours?
All right, you could do our worst.
It's
player.
hard though because I don't know your whole team, but I would say for me, I just think that in an Arsenal shirt, probably one of your centre backs. I'll probably say Mustafi. I think whenever United are playing against him, I think that there's a chance. But there's probably quite a few candidates for Arsenal that you could tell me that are worse.
All right, this guy's answered the question for me. It's Phil Jones. He's useless, man.
No, yeah. Well, I wouldn't. There's a few at United at the moment.
Mustafi's better than Phil Jones.
Yeah, I just remember him playing against Sheffield United. He just had to get subbed half time.
Do you know what it is? It's weird. You know what? I reckon Phil Jones, if he went to another club, he'd be good.
It's too high level. United is.
If he went to another club, he'd be good, right? Because remember when you bought him, there was a lot of clubs after him, weren't there? It was and it's a bit harsh on him because he never gets a proper run out, does he? He never. And do you know what is never good? When you're a player that you're always being played all over the place,
I think if he went to Burnley, and Burnley are a decent team, and Sean Dyche got hold of him, I reckon he'd just simplify his game and turn him into a decent centre-back.
That's the type of club. You're right. That's the sort of club that would suit him. Juraj says, sorry, Mark, but you are wrong. We need to stick with Ollie. Transfers during this period are great. If we add Sancho, Saul, and possibly one other really good defender, we can challenge for the title.
I love this. I mean, at what point of this show have I said sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for one? But I'm sure you get this as well, Robbie. If we get Champions League football, you've got to keep Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. If we don't, I think there's a conversation to be had there, because what people don't realise is if we don't get Champions League football, we'll have our lowest ever points total in Premier League history. So why should he be immune to that? That for me is the thing to decide in the summer. But things are looking. I think we will get Champions League football. I don't think we'll be challenging for the title next year if we get Sancho and Messi. I think that's disrespectful of the consistency that Man City and Liverpool have. But I would like to see United next season grab firmly third place, and then the year after that go hopefully get in a title race.
So like you're sort of like slowly making your way back, but I don't think United fans, they don't look on it like that.
No, but you've got to be patient.
That's the problem when you're spending all that, when you've got all that money to spend. United fans are looking at it like, we're supposed to challenge right now. They're not really on the rebuilding. Maybe that's been part of the problem with United. Why you guys have found it so difficult to get back to where you were.
I think there's a valid point in being impatient immediately after Sir Alex went, but after 2 or 3 years of failing, you've got to realise for every year you're failing, it's probably a year to get back. And also look at Man City and Chelsea. Did they win the title straight away when they brought in their money? No, they didn't. You've got to build it. And I think 2-3 years is about right. And I think Arsenal are the same. From when you start doing things right, you've probably got to say 2 or 3 years from that.
Yep. Dante says Arsenal and Man United will be irrelevant pub teams in 10 years. Also, don't void the league and give Liverpool the title with an asterisk. I think that sounds like a Liverpool fan, don't it?
Yeah.
But irrelevant.
He's been living in a cave for 30 years. He's now got a bit of light and it's all gone to his head.
What if they don't get that title, though? I mean, mentally for Liverpool fans, that's it. I mean, they'll be done, wouldn't they?
They deserve it, don't they? But if I'm not handing them a title, that they've got to finish the season to get it.
Yeah. Mark, Daniel's asking, Mark, Aubameyang or Kane in the summer?
Harry Kane's a good player, and he's 4 years younger. So I think Kane would suit United better. But I've always been a fan of Aubameyang. I'm not going to lie. I wanted us to get him. I thought it was a good signing. But I think Kane would. United are looking for that sort of a striker, and Kane and Aubameyang are very different. So I think I probably would go Kane. But you've got to bring in the price. Aubameyang would be 50, and Spurs want 200. So I'd probably go back to Aubameyang then. So price is always important.
No one's paying 200 right now.
No.
Maybe Newcastle. This guy says, thoughts on Hakim Ziyech? And is it good business for Chelsea? I'm a Chelsea fan here.
I think it's a good player.
That's a good signing. And Chelsea have got him really early with that signing as well. And looks like, Ajax must be rubbing their hands together now as well, because they're probably thinking, well, at least we've got this in the bank with this crisis that's going on, because a club like Ajax are going to need as much money as they can get. A club like Ajax actually might emerge from this crisis in better shape than most other clubs, because they build from their youth. This crisis might help those type of clubs.
Yeah, they've been at it for years, haven't they? I mean, I remember Ajax winning the Champions League. So yeah, clubs with good structure, and Dutch clubs normally do. But we were talking about this about a month ago, that one of the positives of the Premier League this year, and Arsenal have done it, United have done it, Chelsea have done it, there's a lot of clubs that were already using young players. And that maybe is going to have to happen even more now. So at least it's not a new thing. For some clubs, they've been doing it already. Okay.
Mark and Robbie, would it bother you if Liverpool were handed the title? Well, I think you've already sort of said that you would be deadly against that.
Yeah, I just think if you're running a race, I don't care how far you are ahead, you've got to finish the race. I think it would be... Look, if they want to do that, I'll banter them for it every year and say that's not a proper title. So crack on. Liverpool fans don't want that either, I don't think.
Mark, one for you. Busby Legend there says, Mark, explain to Robbie how massively underrated Anthony Martial is. Well, he explained that to me, because to me, personally, I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's a great player because he doesn't produce it enough. He's a very inconsistent player to me. But the guy's saying that you're going to explain to me how underrated he is.
I think one of Solskjaer's big positives this season has been Anthony Martial, because the difference between Martial over the last 3 years and this season is night and day. His work off the ball, his hold up play, his intelligence as a number 9. I didn't think he had that in him. He was always like, oh, he's going to be like Henry, he's going to go left and then up front. And I was like, I think he's better off the left. So unless you've been watching Martial this season, you probably wouldn't have seen a lot of the stuff that he does. His hold-up plays, his running of the channels. He lives on scraps in that team until Bruno's came. And his goal-to-game ratio is actually better than Rashford's, who's stat-padded with penalties, really. So Martial's been one of our best players this season, but I think you'd probably have to watch him as a number 9, which I wouldn't expect you would have watched him that many times. So I think Martial is underrated, and I think Martial's a victim, like Pogba, from a lot of our ex-players who, because he's not from the youth, they seem to have an issue. And I don't know whether they hear stuff from the training ground or not, but for me, he's been one of the best players of the season for United and really surprised me. And I would applaud Solskjaer, because I think Solskjaer as a striker has taught him a lot this year.
All right. Lou for Moss with an interesting one. He says, Arsenal Van Persie or Manchester United Van Persie?
He won as a league. He's for me, look, sensibly, we bought a fantastic player, and he was a fantastic player at Arsenal for a lot longer than he was with us. But he gave us 1 year and he won us a title. So for me, he's bordering on a legend. I'd say the Arsenal Van Persie was better because he'd done it over more. At United, I think it was just that season, wasn't it? Yeah, I think he got injured. Moyes came in. He didn't like Moyes. He got injured. Yeah. And that was it.
Literally one season, he went in, won the league for you guys, and then that still hurts as an Arsenal fan, and that's for me as an Arsenal fan. I look at that signing as we are here and we are talking about the rivalry. Me and a lot of Arsenal fans looked on that and said, "Nah, that was the day when." Throwing in the towel might be too much of a strong word, but to give Manchester United our best player in his prime was, to me, I've never forgiven Kroenke and those guys for that. I'm like,
they had to give him a guard of honor as well.
Guard of honor. We will, but I just really, I really was really angered. It still angers me now. We gave you the title. You needed gold. We gave you the title.
Yeah, 100%.
And to give that, as we're here and we're talking about rivalry and stuff like that, that was the day when we just gave up on all that, and it really, really angered me. Football Mania says Martial is overrated. Can't even score 15 goals in a season in the Premier League. Is that right? Has he never scored 15 goals?
I don't know what he's on now, but he can't be far off it. What?
How many years has he been at United now?
He came in when he's been there about 4 or 5 years, I think now.
Oh, so he's been there a while then, hasn't he?
But yeah, I don't know how many he's got this season in relation to goals. I'll just have a quick look actually, because he can't be far off this year. And he's been he's had a decent season at United. He's got 11 goals and he's got 9 games left. So he's been injured. The trouble with I said at the start of the season, this will make you laugh. The tweet's out there. I don't delete him. I said Martial will outscore Aubameyang. Oh, and I got loads and loads of stick for it. But I think he would have been closer.
So again, who'd outscore Aubameyang?
Martial.
No wonder you got stick for it.
But he missed 2 months. So he'd be a lot closer. But he's got 11 goals. He's got 9 games to go. He'll get 15. I thought he would have got 20 if he hadn't got injured, which in the Premier League season is very good. He's
not outscoring Aubameyang. Aubameyang's a natural goal scorer. Martial's not a natural. To me, Martial's a very good player, but he's not a natural goal scorer. When he's through one-on-one, I'm not putting my house on it. If Aubameyang's through one-on-one, I'll put my house. If they, but Martial,
you'd have lost your house against Olympiacos.
Huh?
You'd have lost your house against Olympiacos.
Although he did get the goal just before that. You know what I mean? The problem at Arsenal is that we're too dependent on him. If he was playing in a team that was a better team that scored more goals from midfield and other areas like that, he'd be even better. But the problem is that we're too dependent upon his goals. And that is one of our big problems. We're going to do a couple more before I let you go, Mark. Loads of comments coming in. Chris Owen says, with the current situation, if a decent offer came in for Martinelli or Greenwood, would our clubs be tempted to cash in?
Not on Greenwood. United won't, no.
I don't think. I think it would be suicidal for Arsenal to cash in on Martinelli, because he really is, even though he's not been playing week in, week out, he really is a fan's favourite. And what would hurt more? Rashford, Greenwood going to Liverpool, or Saka, Martinelli to Spurs? Listen, man, if any of those went to Spurs, any player.
Thing is, that Rashford or Greenwood would not go to Liverpool, and I presume it'd be the same with those lads. So
Saka wouldn't go to Spurs. I hope. No, he wouldn't go to Spurs. He wouldn't go to Spurs. Mark, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Remind everybody again about what we're up to this weekend.
Yeah, so football fans, for the NHS, 24-hour stream across AFTV starting at midday on Saturday. Every 3 hours we'll switch. And what we want to do, we want United Stand viewers to switch to AFTV, AFTV to switch to United Stand. We'll be switching over. I'll be coming on here. Flex will come on here. Robbie and AFTV people will be coming on the United Stand. So it is a 24-hour stream that we want people to watch as much of it as possible. And also donate, raise money for our NHS and football fans' opportunity to do something on this lockdown for the people that are out there saving lives.
Thank you. Brilliant, Mark. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming on today. Always a pleasure. That's Mark Goldbridge there from United Stand. Don't forget, as he said, coming up this weekend, 24-hour stream starting from 12. We kick it off on AFTV. As Mark says, we swap over every 3 hours. And we're going to raise loads and loads of money for the NHS. So make sure you get involved with that. Lots of guests coming on as well. Get involved with that this weekend. Thanks for watching the show, and I'll be back tonight.